Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are actor Mike Park and educator, writer Diane Luby Lane. Actor Mike Park was born and raised in Illinois. He went to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, where he received an undergraduate degree in English and a graduate degree in English literature and creative writing. You've seen him in TV commercials. He's been in a guest or a recurring role in The Office, and notably in the film In Between Days. Mike has an interesting daytime job. Tell us a little bit about that, Mike.
I work for a music composer who specifically does music for film trailers.
And what do you have to do with it?
I help him run the business in general. It's what I do in between acting jobs.
Are you musical?
Not very.
You don't help write the music?
No, I come from the outsider point of view. I tell them like what I like or what I don't like. I don't have, yeah.
And then on the trailers, did they always write new music, or don't they use music from the films?
Yes, sometimes they do, but in many cases the music for the film is not ready yet.
Oh, I see.
So the trailer's done ahead of time for advertising purposes, so they need music. So his company, Robert Etal Productions, he has a music library, and so they use the music from the music library.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. And would he use it on commercials as well?
It does get used in commercials sometimes. We have something for Columbia Sportswear, so it happens. Most of the business is with the film trailers.
But you also did commercials. That's why I brought that up. What
Yes.
commercials were you acting in? Is that how you got started?
Yeah, well, that's some of the first paying jobs I did. I was in I was in like a Best Buy spot and a Honda spot and a Bud Light spot. Those are all on the internet, on the various websites.
I see.
Currently in a Hotels.com commercial.
And then when you do a commercial like that, you have to just go to audition, right?
Yes, it's the same process. You audition and then you have callbacks and they just pick.
And then do you rehearse?
Sometimes it depends on the commercial. Currently I'm in a Hotels.com commercial where I don't have to rehearse because I don't have any lines. I just.
Oh, so that's the thing. You don't have to do your blocking and that stuff. Or?
Yeah, a little bit of that. I did a Honda webisodes, or they call them Readysodes, on the Honda website, and so there was actually a lot of dialogue, but we didn't do a lot of rehearsals for that.
When you went to Creighton
Mm-hmm.
and you graduated with an English degree, were you thinking of acting at the time?
I always thought about acting ever since I was a kid. I just never had the spirit, the guts, the wherewithal to kind of pursue it.
How did that happen then? How did you get the guts and wherewithal? Were you going to write with your English?
Be a writer. Yes,
yeah.
I came out to LA to be a writer actually, but I put that on hold because I got very depressed because, I would write and then the next day, I would read it and then I would be like, oh, this is not good.
Even if it was punctuated correctly.
Even if it was punctuated correctly.
So what were you writing?
I wrote a couple screenplays.
Ah.
So
were you writing yourself into these screenplays because you wanted to act, but you couldn't quite get there?
Yeah, a little bit. It was more just writing, kind of. I was writing about my experiences, so in a way I was writing about myself. In grad school I would write short stories, and then I would switch to screenplays, and that's what I do.
One of the things you did do is direct a short film.
Yes.
It was an award-winning, it was in the Pacific Asia.
Yes, it was screened at the Los Angeles Asian American Pacific Film Festival. It was a comedy short film that a friend of mine, we co-wrote it.
Oh, you wrote it together.
And then I directed it, and I had some good friends act in it, and then it got screened there.
So you cast it?
Yes. Yeah, with you know, I just know. I think a lot of actors, we all have actor friends, and a lot of our friends that we admire, whose abilities we admire, whenever we do projects, we ask them for favors and ask them if they want to participate.
Did you ever take any directing workshops?
Not directing workshops, no. I read a couple books about directing, and then I've directed a few short films. I've done a few things.
So it came easily?
Yeah, it's
I mean, I'm trying to get to, like, are we going into directing from here?
You know, I would like to do more of that in the future. It's by far the most demanding thing I've done, because it requires so much energy, and it's a lot of fun. So in the future, I'd like to continue to do some more projects.
You have to be really prepared, don't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of the more you do pre-production, the better it is when you actually shoot the film and do the editing and.
Different from writing.
Yeah, very different, very different.
And so your writing goes along with the directing, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about writing, Casey Wilson.
Yes.
Casey Wilson, who wrote Nights of Noir.
Yes.
Has gotten a lot of awards. I mean, she's a fine writer that we should be looking for.
She's excellent. She's very funny. She's a wonderful performer as well. She trained in the Groundlings Company, and she performed in their Sunday Company. She's very funny, beautiful, and she wrote these great plays, and she directed the plays, and she actually has a part in it where she does the intro, and she does a burlesque. Let's get to that. You have somebody, a burlesque yes, Casey,
queen,
yes.
introduce the plays?
She does a little introduction before the first play, which is Mark for Love.
Okay, who does that introduction?
The character Honey, I'm a Home.
Oh, Honey, I'm a Home.
Yes, and Casey plays that, and Honey, I'm a Home.
Oh, I see.
And then after intermission, Honey, I'm a Home does a burlesque into the second play, which is of Dicks and Dames.
So tell us a little bit about Marked for Love.
Marked for Love is it's a noir parody. It's a noir comedy, and it's about a detective Bolt who is solving a case about a missing diamond.
So there's two plays.
Yes.
And you're in actually both of them?
Yes,
I play. The same character
yes.
follows through?
Yes, I play Hank Sargent, and
he's the detective,
I'm
Mr. Sargent.
Hank Sargent. I'm the police chief in the first play, and I also play Hank Sargent in the second play.
Same thing. So Marked for Love is looking for the diamond. What about Dicks and Dames?
Of Dicks and Dames is about a missing girl, and so it's got a lot. It's got maybe non sequiturs. It's got a lot of comedy. It's basically it's based on the noir style. Like, so you have the detective, the femme fatale. You have a villain, and interspersed in that is just, she has like a lot of what I like to call like absurd humor, like references from today. It's set in the 1940s, but she makes a reference to Barack Obama.
She does do that.
Yeah, so that a lot of that kind of humor comes into it.
Was this a big casting call? Did you have to go out, or did she write the role for you? Did she know you?
Marked for Love, I believe she had. It was last year. It was part of a one-act festival. Out of I believe over 100, 200 one acts, it was chosen to be in the one-act festival. It won the best ensemble award, and so, but it was part of a one-act festival. So this year we brought it back as a separate standalone piece, and then she wrote the sequel of Dicks and Dames.
Oh, so then she went on to write it.
Yes.
And where is it? At what theater?
This is at the Attic Theater.
Is it tiny? Is it a 49 seat?
It's a 99.
Oh, 99.
It's 99 seat. It's in Los Angeles, next to Culver City. It's on Washington Boulevard, right east of Fairfax.
And what's next for you?
For me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm more auditioning, more training. I'm currently writing something that I hope to direct. And
do you continue to take acting lessons?
Yes, of course.
You do? Do you sing and dance?
Not well.
So you're not going to do anything like that?
No, not anytime soon, no.
When we talk about auditions and casting calls a lot, and when you go, do you see the same people?
Sometimes I see the same people.
What are the recurring things. Is it always a cast for an Asian, or do you go for a blonde, blue-eyed guy? Or
I never go for a blonde, blue-eyed guy.
you don't go do that.
Funny enough, when they're looking for a blonde, blue-eyed guy, they usually don't look for me.
They don't want you.
It depends. Many cases, it's they're looking for a person of ethnicity or an ethnic person. For commercials, it's just kind of like they're looking for a best friend or something, and so there's lots of people that I see. Of all different kinds.
All different, but not your friends. You're not up against friends.
Once in a while I am. A friend of mine, he does a lot of commercials, and he's done a lot of film work. He was in Yes Man. His name is Aaron Takahashi. I see him once in a while at commercial auditions and things. But
well, we're going to go and see you on stage, Nights of Noir.
Yes, so
at the Attic.
At the Attic, and if people want to get tickets, they can go to.
We can find where to get tickets. They're pretty easy to find.
The Attic Theater or www.place411.com.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with Diane Luby Lane. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with educator, writer, actress, and poet Diane Luby Lane. She was born and raised in New Jersey, went to the University of South Florida, and at NYU she majored in anthropology. I guess you majored in anthropology all the way along,
No,
huh?
I did.
Oh, no, just there.
You got it right.
As an actor, she wrote and starred in a one-woman play, Deep Sea Diving, and you've seen her in lots of TV roles, in film, and as a writer, her internationally known book, Words of Women, was a big seller. Diane founded a teen literacy program called Get Lit, and we're going to talk about that later, but when you got started as an actress, was anthropology really what you were interested in?
So funny. You know, it was actually cultural anthropology.
Oh, that's
so
better.
That's better, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the study of people. I was also doing a lot of acting, and I thought, I don't want to just know about one thing, you know?
But it was probably pretty interesting.
It was very interesting, and I guess actors are interested in people, so it was deep exploration of other cultures.
So you were already acting, you didn't use that as a stepping stone to get to your acting. Your anthropology.
Anthropology. No.
That was.
No.
Well, how did you get started in acting?
Well, I started modeling when I lived in Florida, and that brought me to New York, and that's why I was in NYU. I lived in Japan for a year, and when I got back, I started doing television commercials, you know, as sort of a model / actress, and then you know, very shortly, acting things just sort of followed. And
oh, so it did. So you really didn't start out to be an actress at all.
No.
Did you go to acting classes?
Yeah, I did in New York. I studied with an actress named Susan Batson, and then I worked with a wonderful actress named Vivica Lindfors, who taught me a lot.
Let's talk about Vivica Lindfors, because she was the big influence on your acting career or on your whole life.
Yeah, on my whole life, I have to say. As Susan was, actually. They're both just, you know,
Susan
fabulous.
was your acting teacher?
She was, but, you know, anyone that knows Susan Batson, and she does a lot of work with Nicole Kidman's private coach. You know,
how did they become inspirations to you?
Acting work is so, if it's done with any great teacher. I had a great teacher at NYU who taught architecture, which I have no interest in, but because she was a great teacher, it meant a great deal to me. So these are just incredible teachers, Susan and Vivica. But Vivica, she cast me in a play that she had written called I Want, I Want, I Want, with Judd Hirsch and James Cameron Mitchell. And I just fell in love with her. The first time I met her,
Was she teaching you?
Well,
was it a theater ensemble?
It was. So
she was in part of the group?
Sort of.
Was she the teacher of the group?
She cast me in this play, and we became friendly, and I had written a book of monologues that later got published by Samuel French called Words of Women, and I invited her to the original, before it even got published, I invited her to come see the works put up. And she said, oh, so our theater company put it up. And she said, can I join your theater company? And I thought,
can she?
Can you? I mean, everybody was 20. She was 72. She was a Broadway star,
Right.
a movie star. You know, she's legendary. And I thought, okay. I mean, I was thrilled, but I was confused. And she shows up, and you have to know about Vivica, and you know Vivica, right?
I mean, I know who she is. I never had the pleasure of meeting her.
Well, you know, 72 on Vivica, I mean, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life, at 72. She's very sexy and from another country, and she's just exotic. And so she wasn't, you know, you can't categorize her. So she walked in with these young people and said, well, I would like to start working on poetry. And I thought, oh, God. So she really is an old lady because she wants to start doing poems, like about
Because you
roses.
were never into poetry. So
No.
this was like a transition for you all of a sudden.
Yes, I'd always loved reading, but my whole life. But poetry is something, all I knew was, oh, Captain, my captain from the 10th grade in English class. I mean, it was another old white guy that wanted us to learn about, you know, the president. I mean, it was also stuffy and stale, and a couple things about roses throughout high school, and that's what I thought about poetry. And then she performed, you know, so I had this performer. My introduction to poetry was by an actress, and she stood up and she performed Walt Whitman, Has Anyone Supposed It Lucky to Be Born? And from Song of Myself, and it was like one of those moments where, you know, time stands still.
But is poetry easier to remember than lines to a play?
That's a good question. I would say it depends. If you love the words to that play, you know, it would matter what if you love it.
I
A
see.
poem
That's the
that I
whole
hate
thing.
would be hard. Yeah.
I think that's the whole thing. So here you are. Did she come in and teach you poetry? That was the
Yeah.
turning point for you.
Well-
You had never written poetry, never
No,
played any
no.
part of it?
No, so I wrote monologues, so I thought I was the great writer.
Tell
I thought
us a
I was,
little bit about those monologues that she was listening to.
Yeah.
Was she a part of them, or was she just listening to them?
She was just listening to them, and she ended up writing the foreword to my book, actually.
Oh,
it's
she
still
did.
in print after all these years, but she...
The monologues were about what?
So I used to audition for things on Broadway and off Broadway and for agents and for all kinds of things, and you had to perform something. And it's hard. You either choose something that's phenomenal, that's been done 8 million times, or it's the constant search. So I just started writing them for myself, something I knew would be funny. I knew I could cry. I knew I could just show all emotions, and I used to lie and say it was written by somebody else, so I would look really impressive. And you know, they were very effective. And so then people started to say, well, can you write one for me? And I had, you know, that's where what they
So
came
that's
out
where
of.
your writing came into, because you said you really love to write.
I do love to write. I love it. I mean, they used to call me for acting parts, you know, come audition for this thing on Broadway. And I'd go, oh, God. I just didn't want to go. And I thought that I was going to be an actress. And I realized, you know, I would be home reading a book, and I couldn't tear myself away from that to go. I mean, I did, but I didn't want to. So it's funny how...
So it
you
is
know.
strange, because you started acting,
Yeah.
and then you really didn't care about it.
No, I didn't.
And you were probably successful, because you were in a lot of things.
Yeah, I was, but it's funny, the work that I do now, I couldn't do if I didn't approach the work as an actor.
So this was a stepping stone, you think, of what you're
it
doing?
was.
Well, you got an award. We're going to talk about Get Lit. And you did get an award, a prestigious award for
Yeah.
creative ways to promote literature.
Yeah.
What is that award about?
That's the James Patterson best-selling author Page Turner Award. And every year he would honor people from around the country who found creative ways to get other people reading. So it's incredibly generous, because here's a person who's a writer, and he uses his own resources to appreciate other people who are promoting words and language. It's very nice of him.
But you're doing the same kind of thing. You're using everything that you've learned and conjured up to teach kids
Yeah.
in the public schools. Tell us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, well, so with Vivica, she didn't consider herself our teacher. She was just an actress who loved to act, and there wasn't enough places for her to do it. She lived for it. So with us, she would play. Each of us developed an hour's worth of material. I thought I was the great monologue writer. I wanted to perform my own stuff. She said, no, just do 15 minutes of that, 45 minutes of other people's work.
Oh.
And I thought, well, why? And she said, just trust me, you'll see. So we each developed a 1-hour set, performed it all over New York City in a guerrilla poetry troupe.
Oh,
I
really?
had no idea that that would be the crutch of my life, because this is now 15 years later. That is the exact work. We have in-school programs, after-school programs, but the programs that we do with our Get Lit players, they're getting very well known now. They travel across the country. they are all great spoken word poets. They're featured on HBO, the Brave New Voices thing.
But how do they get known?
Well, because they write they write their own pieces, which are wonderful.
But they're
what's
from
special
schools?
about them?
Are
yeah,
they kids from schools?
they're kids and
teenagers?
Teenagers, and they're just LAUSD. You know,
They are.
They're just normal kids. I mean, a lot of them are. I mean, they're all urban youth. LAUSD is enormous. So I auditioned kids all over. I mean, it's
Is
just,
that what you do? You audition them to be a part of your group?
yes.
And where do you meet?
For a long time, we would just go to the different high schools and talk to them about what we do and what we're looking for, and then have them audition, choose our 12 favorite poets. Some of them bust in 2 hours to get to the workshops every week.
And they're writing poetry, and you're reading them, and they're performing it, and then you choose from that what you want.
That's right, but
what is good.
That's correct, but what makes the Get Lit Players so special and so unique, and they're the only troupe I know that's doing it, is, thank you, Vivica, is they, most of their set is other people's work, is classical and contemporary poetry. So they're bringing to life, one of our Get Lit Players, Ryan, is a rapper. He's an unbelievable rapper. And, to see him do that and have the crowd going crazy, and then all of a sudden do a Longfellow poem.
Oh, he will do that.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
mix them together.
Well,
I
that's
see.
what they do. And so they're able to bring that great energy, that young energy, and the whole hip-hop, spoken word vibe, and put that passion into the old canonical works. And that's what they're extraordinary at.
So that's why it's so interesting, because you hear them speak first,
Right.
or read first,
Right.
from
Right.
themselves.
They don't read, they always memorize.
They memorize, I see. And then they do somebody else's poetry in their own style?
Yeah.
I see.
But it's not a hip-hop spoken word style. It's a style that's really just truthful. It lets the piece emerge.
But the thing that must happen then is you must have kids rotating in and out.
We do. Some of our kids, like Jasmine, who's a complete, Halle Berry lookalike genius, we found her at 14, and now she's, is she 15 or 16? In other words, she will hopefully be in the program her entire high school
she's 8,
career.
19, or through high school?
Through high school, and then they
I
can
see.
be until they're 19. But
I
yes,
see.
kids do graduate, and then we have new kids constantly coming in too.
That's what I would think. What about the funding?
Oh.
That's a tough one, huh?
Yeah, because we've just reached our 3-year mark, so now we qualify for a lot of the larger grants.
Right.
But Water Buffalo Club was really generous. We've had a lot of really generous supporters. All of our staff is volunteer. It's a real labor of love. I still make my living, doing TV commercials, and so that enables me to have the time to spend 65 hours a week on this.
When we were talking the other day, we mentioned Poet Laureate Carol Muskie Dukes, who is the widow of that great actor David Dukes.
Yeah.
And she's become the Poet Laureate of California, or she was appointed Poet Laureate.
Yes.
And she and you have a similar kind of symbiotic approach, I guess, to poetry.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of her work. Her work really, really moves me, and so
Her writing.
Her writing, and I contacted her and asked if she would be an advisor on a grant that we were pursuing, and she said yes. And I said, well, here, we had a recent write-up in the LA Times, and she read it, and it was just sort of, she grew up with a mother that could had memorized large volumes of poetry, so she grew up hearing poetry and thinking that it was very important to be able to recite poetry, and that's our common link. We both think that is so extremely important. It's meant so much to her in her life and made her the person that she is. Same as me.
Same for you.
And so I just,
And she has a program. What did you say? Her Magic Poetry Bus.
Her Magic Poetry Bus is. So she was appointed. She just appointed Poet Laureate, and she has a. I don't know if it's a mandate. She has a. To develop a program over the next 2 years. And so she's developed the Magic Poetry Bus, which is an online, which will come in under the Get Lit program. Yeah, and so, lucky us,
Yeah, because that'll draw people to your project.
It's incredible, and it's really, this is the most extraordinary project because Carol knows everybody, and so it's a way for people to go online and experience poetry as they never have before. So on this bus ride, you'll take virtual stops. So here's the Get Lit Players performing, and so
Oh,
here's
how great.
Rafe Esquith's Hobart Shakespeareans down in, performing Shakespeare. Here's John Lithgow on Broadway with an interview. Here's, so you have these different stops. It reminds me of TED, how you get to access the most brilliant speakers like that.
Oh, that's incredible. I'm so glad you came on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And everyone remember, get lit. We need literature. We need people to read. We don't need so much texting. We need to spell, right?
Yes.
And keep watching us because we'll tell you how to spell. Write to jaquinn1 email at AOL.com. and 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles, 90017. Thanks.